Janavallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Okay, we are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 4, text number 7, which doesn't have a purport, so we'll move on to 8. But anyway, I guess I can just chant 7 by myself, and then we can just chant 8 together. Shyamavadatam virajam prashantarunalochanam dhurbishchaturbhir viditam Pitakosham Barena cha. Translation: the Lord's body is blackish, but is eternal, full of bliss and knowledge, and is very, very beautiful. His eyes are always peaceful, and they are reddish like the rising morning sun. I could immediately recognize him as the Supreme Personality of Godhead by his 4 hands, different symbolic representations, and yellow silk garments. Okay, so we can do text 8 now together. Vame Urau Adhishritya Dakshina Angri Sororuham Apashrita Arbhaga Ashwatham Akrasham tyakta pipalam vamauravadhishritya dakshinangri saroruham apashritarbhakashvatham akrisham tyakta pipalam vamauravadhishritya dakshinangri saroruham apashritarbhakashvatham akrisham tyakta pipalam vamauravadhishritya dakshinangri saroruham apashritarbhakashvatham akrisham tyakta pipalam. Matadus. Vame, on the left. Uro, thigh. Adhishritya, placed on. Dakshina Angri Sororuham, the right lotus foot. Apashrita, taking rest against. Arbhaka, young. Ashvatham, banyan tree. Akrisham, cheerful. Tyakta, having left. Pippalam, household comforts. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. The Lord was sitting, taking rest against a young banyan tree, with his right lotus foot on his left thigh, and although he had left all household comforts, he looked quite cheerful in that posture. Purport. According to Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, the Lord's sitting posture, keeping his back against the newly grown banyan tree, is also meaningful. Ashwatha, the banyan tree, is so called because the tree does not die very quickly. It continues to live for many, many years. His legs and their energies are the material ingredients, which are 5 in all: earth, water, fire, air, and sky. The material energies represented by the banyan tree are all products of his external potency and are therefore kept to his back. And because this particular universe is the smallest of all, the banyan tree is therefore designated as small, or as a child. Tyakta Pipalam indicates that he has now finished his pastimes in this particular small universe, but since the Lord is absolute and eternally blissful, there is no difference between his leaving or accepting something. The Lord was now prepared to leave this particular universe and go into another, just as the sun rises on one particular planet and sets in another simultaneously, but does not change its own situation. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Svapadantikam Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivikasa Swaminiti Namine Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivas Adi Gaura Bhaktivrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Vama Uravadishritya Dakshinangri Sororuham Apashratar Bhakashvattam Akrisham Tyakta Pipalam. The Lord was sitting, taking rest against a young banyan tree, with his right lotus foot on his left thigh, and although he had left all household comforts, he looked quite cheerful in that posture. Okay, so we're continuing our narration here of Uddhava and his following the Lord after he was instructed to go to Badarik Ashram. He being unable to bear the separation he was feeling from the Lord, he decided to follow him. And so he followed him up until this point, whereat he saw him, as we read in the verse, sitting, taking rest against a young banyan tree, with his right lotus foot on his left thigh, and looking quite cheerful. So these two verses, what I thought was significant, these two verses plus this purport, is that it's showing kind of two sides to Krishna's personality. Not personality in the sense of one's preferences or things like that, but of his, you could say, two sides of his person. That in text 7 we're hearing that the Lord's body is blackish, but is eternal, full of bliss and knowledge, and very, very beautiful. His eyes are always peaceful, and they're reddish like the rising morning sun. I could immediately, anyway, like that. And then in text 8, the Lord was sitting, taking rest against a young banyan tree with his right lotus foot on his left thigh. And although he had left all household comforts, he looked quite cheerful in that posture. So we're seeing here that the Lord, just you could say, perhaps you could even say on a surface level. Of course, we don't really usually talk about surface level when we're talking about the Supreme Lord. But even just in that sense, Krishna is extraordinarily beautiful. Krishna in this particular form and in every form is extraordinarily beautiful. So one side of Krishna's person is that even just you could say on a surface level, Krishna is extremely beautiful. His pastimes are extremely beautiful. His body is extremely beautiful. Krishna is described, he has these, this is in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, he's described as having 4 particular extra qualities, you could say, as opposed to Narayana or other forms of Vishnu. And one of them is Rupa Madhuryam. He's very, very beautiful. He has a very beautiful form, more beautiful than even all of the other Vishnu forms. So that's one thing that's being presented here in the text. And in the purport, you have Srila Prabhupada mirroring the commentary of Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, practically actually word for word, just presenting it here, that not only are Krishna's activities extremely beautiful, not only is Krishna's form extremely beautiful, but it's full of extraordinarily profound meaning. It's not just that Krishna is nice to look at, but Krishna also, everything that he does is conscious. Everything that he does is full of all kinds of meaning, just like we see in Vrindavan. Krishna's pastimes in Vrindavan are extraordinarily sweet. Even if you were just to take them, you could say on face value, and read them. They're extraordinarily sweet. But at the same time, our acharyas describe, specifically Bhaktivinoda Thakur describes that how each of these pastimes, specifically Krishna killing these different demons which were sent to kill him, each of them has a specific import or a specific significance for sadhakas. All these different demons, they represent different anarthas. I won't get into it in detail, but that's there. Therefore, in Chaitanya Bhagavat, there's this verse, which Vrindavan Das Thakur is kind of interjecting his own, you could say, astonishment into the narration of the actual pastimes of Chaitanya Bhagavat. He says, Dandeke e shab lila jata hoyache, shata varshe taha ke barnibe hano ache. He says, who in 100 years, who could possibly describe the pastimes that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu performs in 30 minutes? One danda, 30 minutes. He says, who could possibly describe in 100 years, which is basically, I mean, you could say it's a lifetime, but it's actually more than a lifetime for most people. If somebody went on for one lifetime, not just any lifetime, a long lifetime, 100 years, just only describing the pastimes that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu performed in 30 minutes, he wouldn't get to the end of it. So everything that Krishna does, therefore Lord Brahma says, Ko veti bhuman bhagavan paratma yogeshvarotir bhavatas trilokyam. Kva vakatam vakati vakadeti vistaryan kridasi yogamayam. He says, you are so great, your pastimes are so great, that even I can't estimate where, when, or why you're performing all of these things, because they're all activities of your yogamaya. So this is the distinction between Krishna's beauty and material beauty. In material life also, in the material world, we see so many things which, truthfully, on face value, are very beautiful. If many, the eyes want to hear, the eyes want to see so many nice things, the ears want to hear so many nice things, and there's ample subject matter for a living entity in this world to be completely bewildered by the beauty that can be experienced by the ears, by the eyes, so many, paintings, whatever, in India also, but in, the West, these classical paintings, music, classical music, so many, beautiful pieces of music, which, even some religious traditions accept them as divinely inspired. Of course, we wouldn't, but in Christianity, there's, I think, ample, many Christians talk about how certain classical musicians were inspired by God. I think specifically, anyway, I won't. Beethoven, that's what I was thinking. But if you look at it really, Mozart, yeah. But if you look at it really, there's nothing inherently meaningful in all of that music. Like Waltz of the Flowers. We'll take Waltz of the Flowers by Tchaikovsky, for instance. Okay, it's a very beautiful piece of music. It's a very, beautiful piece of music. But Waltz of the Flowers, what does that even mean? Waltz of the Flowers. Why is it of the flowers? Just some meaning, somebody that the artist or, the composer has, ascribed to it. It has nothing to do with flowers, actually. It has nothing to do with really anything besides just sounding good. So the material world, there is ample, you could say, surface beauty in the material world that some people even think it's divinely inspired, such as the power of the material energy. But if you look at it, if you actually analyze it, it's insubstantial, completely insubstantial. There's nothing there. Shakespeare, another, commonly, another thing which is commonly referred to as beautiful or thought of as beautiful. Shakespeare, all of Shakespeare's plays, I guess with the exception of, what's that one about Julius Caesar? Isn't it called Julius? Yeah, anyway, whatever it is. Anyway, that one's loosely based on history. The other ones are just completely meaningless. You could ascribe, of course, there's some figurative thing, maybe to describe something about the human experience. But ultimately, without any idea of some kind of substantial reality, some kind of actual import, practical import for our existence, it's meaningless. You can describe the human experience all you want, but it doesn't ultimately mean anything unless you actually understand what the real meaning of life is. So everything Krishna does has unlimited meaning. Therefore, it's said about Srimad Bhagavatam Chaitanya Charitamrita, Krishna Tulya Bhagavad Vibhu Sarvashray Prati Shloka Prati Akshare Nana Arthakoy. That this Srimad Bhagavatam, which is non-different from Krishna, every single verse, and not just every single verse, but every single syllable, Va, Ma, U, Rav, Adi, Shritya, all of these, every single syllable has unlimited meanings, such as the depth of Krishna. Therefore, it is stated in Srimad Bhagavad Gita, Janma karma chame divyam evam yo veti tattvataha tyaktva deham punarjanma naiti mamiti sorjana. Therefore, one who can understand even just a little bit of these transcendental activities, birth, etc. of Krishna, and understand their divine nature, Krishna says that he's liberated. When he doesn't have to give, take on another body, having given up this body. And so we're seeing here, it's interesting that Krishna is described here, Uddhava seeing him as having 4 hands, 4 arms. Krishna is known, of course, as one of the, practically the only actual, Swayam, full-on Krishna, incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, that only has 2 arms, doesn't have multiple arms. You see all the other forms of the Lord, Narayana, Nrsimhadev, all these other forms, they all have many, many arms. Of course, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is there. But Krishna is known, practically speaking, for having 2 arms, but here Uddhava is seeing him with 4 arms and different symbolic representations. The Gada, Shankha, Chakra, Padma. So, therefore, Uddhava, we can understand that Uddhava himself understood. He understood Janma Karma Chame Divyam Evam Yoveti Tattvata. He understood in truth who the Supreme Personality of Godhead was. Therefore, this form was revealed to him. Krishna showed him the form which he very much liked to see. There's this verse also in Brahma Samhita, Premanjana Churita Bhakti Vilochanena Santa Sadaiva Hridayeshu Vilokayanti Yam Shama Sundaram. This verse, or this word, Shama, comes up. Shamavadatam, beautiful with black color. Shama Sundara means the same thing. Shama Sundaram, Achintya Gunaswarupam Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. That one whose eyes are tinged with the salve of love, who with prema, basically. He can see Krishna in his heart, Shama Sundar in his heart. And here we're seeing that Uddhava, he's seeing Shama Sundar in front of him in this beautiful posture. Generally speaking, Krishna is covered. Krishna is covered by his yoga maya. He says, Naham prakasha sarvasa yoga maya samavratam murho yam nabijanati loko mam ajam avyayam. That generally, he doesn't manifest himself. He has no obligation to manifest himself to anybody. Not even to his devotees, actually. Not necessarily obligated. He's not obliged to anyone. But, especially to non-devotees, Naham prakasha sarvasya, he's not manifest. Yoga maya samavratam, he's covered by yoga maya. So this darshan that Uddhava is getting here is very special. And we'll see later in the next verse and the following verses. Maitreya, he comes on the scene. And Srila Prabhupada describes in one of the purports, I won't get into it obviously because we'll have a class about that later, but he describes that anybody meeting with the Lord, being able to see the Lord and meet with the Lord, is not an ordinary person. It's not an ordinary event, this meeting with the Lord. And Srila Prabhupada describes that Maitreya could do so because of Ajñata Sukriti. He had some Ajñata Sukriti. He wasn't a bhakta necessarily, wasn't a pure devotee, but he had some Ajñata Sukriti, and therefore the Lord was pleased with him. And so Uddhava, also we can understand, Krishna is certainly very pleased with him and is therefore revealing this form to him. There's this verse in the Upanishads, Nayam atma pravachanena labhyo namedayana bahudashrutena yamai vaishavrinute tena labhyasta sesha atma vivrinute tanum svam. That Atma, Krishna, Nayam atma pravachanena labhya. Krishna is not obtainable by what? Namedhaya nabahudashrutena. He's not attainable just by one's intelligence. He's not attainable just by hearing all kinds of things, hearing different shastras. But he's attained by one who he chooses. So Uddhava here is clearly being favored by the Lord, clearly is favored by the Lord. Of course, the Lord also, personally, he said, hey, I'm going to wind up my pastimes. You should, maybe split. It's going to get ugly. So Uddhava is obviously a very dear devotee of the Lord, therefore he was able to see this form. Bhishmadev also, Bhishmadev in the 9th chapter of the 1st canto also saw Krishna in front of him. And there's a verse actually which is interestingly quite similar to this one in the sense that he describes, I guess if you want to bring it up you could. It's 1:9:24. He says, Sadeva Devo Bhagavan Pratikshatam Kalevaram Yavadidam Hinomyaham Prasanna Hasaruna Lochanolasan Mukhambujo Dhyanapatas Chaturbhuja. He says, may my Lord, who is four-handed and whose beautifully decorated lotus face with eyes as red as the rising sun, here we're also seeing, Uddhava says, Prashantaruna Lochanam, that he has very peaceful eyes and they're red like the morning sun. Is smiling kindly, whose beautifully decorated lotus face with eyes as red as the rising sun is smiling, kindly await me at the moment when I quit this material body. Prabhupada in the first line of the purport says, Bhishmadev knew well that Lord Krishna was the original Narayana. His worshipable deity was four-handed Narayana, but he knew that four-handed Narayana is a plenary expansion of Lord Krishna. So Bhishmadev very much liked to see this four-handed form of the Lord. And therefore, it's not directly described here that Bhishmadev was actually literally seeing that, but it's understood. It's understood the pure devotees, whenever they see Krishna, they always see Krishna in the form that they like. And it's described, this is in the 10th canto when Krishna enters the arena with the, to kill the wrestlers that Kamsa had set up for him. All the different inhabitants of Mathura and whoever was there, they all saw Krishna in a different way. Of course, Devaki and Vasudeva, they saw him as their beloved child. Like that. They all, every single person there who had there's this verse Bhaktivinoda Thakur sings. Svarasaki siddhi braja gopi dana paramachanchala sati. You could extrapolate. He says, Svarasaki siddhi braja gopi dhana. That the Dana, the wealth of the Braja Gopis, is that they have this Svarasaki Siddhi. They each have their own specific relationship with Krishna. And every devotee, every pure devotee who has a relationship with Krishna, all of their relation, it's like a fingerprint. Nobody has exactly the same relationship with Krishna. Krishna reciprocates, like he says, Ye tamam prapadyante. He says, according to how somebody surrenders to me, I reciprocate with him in that way. So, every single devotee has a specific relationship with Krishna. And so, Bhishmadev is, we can understand, seeing Krishna as four-handed Narayana, his worshipable deity. And so is Uddhava. Here, it's being revealed to him, this form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Just one other instance also, when Krishna was born, Devaki and Vasudeva, they also saw this four-handed form of the Lord when he was born, revealing to them that he was actually the Supreme Lord. Something else significant also here is, of course, the purport to text 8, this the significance that Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is describing of the Lord's sitting posture. Srila Prabhupada says, according to Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, the Lord's sitting posture, keeping his back to the newly grown banyan tree, is also meaningful. Ashwata, the banyan tree, is so called because the tree does not die very quickly. So this is derived, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur derives this. Ashwata, he says, na shva tishtati. So shra means tomorrow, tishtati means stays, and na, of course, means no. So na shva tishtati becomes ashwatthama. So this banyan tree is described, I'll rephrase that. Srila Prabhupada here describes that the banyan tree is so called because the tree does not die very quickly. Srila Prabhupada gets that not actually from Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, but actually from Shankaracharya, who describes the ashwata as shwastha. Shwastha means tomorrow it will stay. In the sense that banyan trees live a very, very long time. They live hundreds of years, more actually. So the banyan tree itself lives for a very long time, but Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur actually derives this meaning. He says, nashvatishtati, that actually describing it from the perspective of its symbolism as the material energy, that it doesn't stay. Which is easily, harmonized in the sense that, yes, a banyan tree does live for a very long time. Shvatishtati, it stays for a very, very long time. But even then, because it is of the material energy, because it's not Krishna's internal energy, nashvatishtati, it doesn't stay. Even something in the material world, we live however many years, 80 years, 90 years maybe. But still we think, very long life. But the banyan tree, we can't imagine living as long as the banyan tree. The banyan tree is a tree. It's not some, glorious living entity like Lord Brahma or something like that. It's a tree. But even a tree's lifespan, we can't imagine living so long. What to speak of, like I mentioned, Lord Brahma. Lord Brahma lives for 311 trillion, 40 billion years. But Srila Prabhupada describes in one purport in the 8th chapter that compared to eternal time, it's a flash in the pan. So we think that this material world is so significant. We think that it's a big thing, that there's so much to do, so much to see, there's so much, beauty and pain and this and that. We think it's a very significant thing. But by the Lord's sitting posture, where is it here? Yes, the material energies represented by the banyan tree are all products of his external potency and are therefore kept to his back. It's the backside of the Lord. It's not a very significant part whatsoever. What's that verse? From Purusha Sukta Pado Sivishra Bhutani Tripada Syamratam Divi. It's just 1/4 of the Lord's creation. So it's a very insignificant part, and therefore, by the Lord's sitting posture, he's demonstrating this. It's to his back. There's another verse also, I guess maybe we can pull that up too. Very famous verse, 174, which also describes this. Bhakti yogena manasi samyak pranihite malay apashyat purusham purnam mayam chadatapashrayam. Srila Prabhupada translates apashrayam as under his control, ashraya. It's under his shelter. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur translates apashrayam or understands apashrayam to mean behind. So this verse also, according to Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's understanding, demonstrates this. That Maya, also significant, he points out that this Bhakti Yogena Manasi Samyak Pranihite Mane Apashyat Purusham Purnam. So you have the Purusham Purnam, the Purna Purusha, the full Supreme Lord. But Mayamcha is separated. It's not necessarily, of course, it's his energy. It's, of course, included within him. But Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur points out that this Mayamcha, the fact that it's separately mentioned is significant, especially the next word also, Tadapashram, it's behind him. Because it's him, but it's not his, what would you say, his Swarup. It's his external energy, his Bahiranga Shakti. Another significant verse, which, 2:5-13, you can pull up. Yes. Vilajjamana yasya sthatam ikshapate muya vimohita vikattante mamaham iti durdhiya. That the illusory energy of the Lord cannot take precedence, being ashamed of her position. So why is Maya behind the Lord? Because she's ashamed. Of course, she's a devotee. She's not a sinful living entity or something like that. She is the Lord's energy. She is dear to the Lord, but because of her, Srila Prabhupada describes her thankless task of deceiving the living entities. She feels embarrassed. She feels ashamed. Therefore, she doesn't take precedence. She stands behind the Lord. She feels ashamed to be within sight of the Lord. But but those who are bewildered by her always talk nonsense, being absorbed in thought of it is I and it is mine. So although this Maya is compared to the Supreme Lord and the rest of his creation and the rest of his Shaktis is completely insignificant, still those who are bewildered by it, those who are absorbed in it, they're thinking, they have the, what would you say, the audacity, you could say, or the gall to say, they puff themselves up and they say, oh, this is me and this is mine, and it's all, they think themselves very, very significant. So, yes, this, and then, and then Srila Prabhupada's also describing here that this particular universe is the smallest of all, in text 8 again. This particular universe is the smallest of all. So not only is Maya itself, the entire material creation, this amazing, astonishing material creation, you think of the size of, for instance, Kshirodakashaya Vishnu. Huge, massive, Karanodakashaya Vishnu. Vishnu lying in the causal ocean. Just absolutely massive that one pore of his skin is bigger than a universe. It's like just unimaginable. It's like you can't even begin to imagine. But even that is insignificant. What to speak of, like Srila Prabhupada says here, this particular universe is the smallest. There's that pastime in the 21st chapter of Madhya Lila. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu speaking to Sanatana Goswami, that one day Lord Brahma, he came to see Krishna in Dwarka. Well-known pastime. He goes to see Krishna in Dwarka. And he goes there and he, speaks to the doorman. He says, I'm here to see Krishna. Excuse me. And then the doorman goes inside and he comes back out and he says, well, Krishna's asking, which Brahma are you? And he's saying, well, I'm Brahma. I'm the one with 4 heads. I'm the father of the Kumaras. What do you mean, which Brahma? And he says, okay, I'll go tell him. And so he goes and he's eventually let in. And Krishna's, he's happy to see Brahma. He says, oh, Brahma, to what do I owe this pleasure? And the way it's described in Chaitanya Charitamrita, basically Lord Brahma says, yeah, okay, I'll get to that. But first, I'm wondering, you said which Brahma? What do you mean by that? And it's described, Krishna, he said, yes. And he went into meditation, and immediately Lord Brahma, all around him, he saw all these Lord Brahmas, some of them with thousands of heads, millions of heads. He saw all these all these Shivas. Everybody was offering prayers to the Lord. Everybody was saying, well, actually, it was interesting what Chaitanya Charitamrita describes. It's describing how actually all of them were saying, Krishna asked them all, how is everybody, how are you doing? As if he's speaking to them one-on-one, how are you doing? is there any fear of the demons? How are the, universal affairs going? And all the Lord Brahmas thinking that they're the only ones in the room. They're saying, yeah, things are good. I'm very happy to be here. And be speaking with you and this and that. And then eventually, they, having finished their conversation, they all offer obeisances. And Lord Brahma is seeing this, and they all offer obeisances, and all the helmets of all the Brahmas, they, hit the ground while they're offering obeisances, and it created this like tumultuous sound that like bewildered Lord Brahma completely. So even Lord Brahma, we see by this pastime, he has 4 heads. There's Brahmas with millions of heads. This universe is a very, very small universe. What does it say in the purport here? Even the way you can see in the way that Srila Prabhupada words it here. Tyakta Pipalam indicates that he had now finished his pastimes in this particular small universe. So Krishna performs pastimes in all kinds of universes. Performs all kinds of pastimes in all kinds of universes. But, now he finishes pastimes in this particular universe, and it's on to the next one. So Lord Brahma, he's bewildered by this. He thinks that he's, and from a material standpoint, he is very great. His body is made of pure intelligence. He has 4 heads. He, has the ability to engineer an entire universe. So Brahma, from a material standpoint, is significant. But next to Krishna, and next to Krishna's, the full manifestation of Krishna's energies, he's nothing. Therefore, he says, there's that verse, Jananta eva janantu. He says, those who say they know Krishna, he says, Janantu, let them know. Which basically means they don't. And if somebody says that they know Krishna, the understanding is that they're so ignorant that there's no point in saying anything to them. It's a stage of such deep ignorance that Janantu, there's nothing you can do, just let them know. But he says, Kim bahuktya me prabhu. As for me, this is somebody speaking whose body is made of pure intelligence. He says, as for me, I don't wish to speak so much about this. Because as far as I'm concerned, he says, Manaso vapusho vacho vaibhavam tavagochara. He says, your opulences are beyond my mind, body, and words. No ability to comprehend it whatsoever. So, yes, basically we're hearing here about the insignificance of the material world and how Krishna is very significant. What exactly to make of this? One thing is that it's amazing to understand that to the extent that we are insignificant, each of us were like, I flew here not that long ago. I was on Saturday I flew here. And we were flying in the plane, and how sometimes you're flying in a plane, you can see another plane, off in the distance kind of passing by. You think, when you see a plane, it's like, whoa, it's a big thing, But I remember we were flying, and I saw this, plane fly by, and I was thinking, wow, it looks really small from here. On the ground, you can't really see much, it's just, hard to kind of grasp exactly how big, even just that area or region of sky that you're in. But then you see a plane flying by, and you think, wow, it's so small. It's amazing how small we are. So although we are very small, there's that verse in the Upanishads, what is it? Anoraniyan mahato mahiyan. That we are very, some translations say that Krishna is the smallest of the small, and he's also the biggest of the big, but Srila Prabhupada, in one place at least, translates it that we are very small. We are Anu. And Krishna's Vibhu, but I was thinking in the relation to this verse, Mahator Mahiyan, he's Mahata. He's great. We are very small and he is very great. But although we are very, very small, I should actually add another layer to this because I'm talking about our bodies. Our bodies themselves are very small, but we ourselves, Balagra Shatabhagasya Shatadakalpatasya, just the 1/10,000th the size of a tip of a hair. So incredibly small. We are, somebody might say that we are the smallest of the small. But Krishna, he's so incredibly merciful that although we are so insignificant, Krishna still, although we're the smallest of the small, Krishna becomes even smaller and he enters into our hearts. He's there, right there with the jiva, just waiting. Was that samane vrikshe purusho nimagno nishaya shochati muhyamana jushtam yada pasyatyanyam isham. He's there, just like there's two birds in a tree. It's described. There's two birds in a tree. One of them is eating all kinds of fruits. The other one's just watching. Just watching. Jushtam yada pasyatyanyam isham, hoping that somehow or other he'll see this other bird in the tree, this anyamisham, this other controller. So to the extent that we're insignificant, to that extent we can understand how merciful Krishna is. We're so incredibly small, but still, this particular small universe is just, even amongst universes, this universe is like a speck of dust. It's nothing. But Krishna came here. And not only did Krishna come here, but he revealed so much. This darshan that we're hearing about, two people in the entire universe had this, at the time that it was going on, two people in the entire universe could see it. But here we are, we're reading about it. And not only we're reading about it, but these books are being distributed. And so many people are able to read about it and hear about it. So although we're truly, completely insignificant, Krishna has come to this universe, placed his lotus feet in this universe, to show us something truly significant, to show us what actual significance means. We're thinking that all of this is super, super significant. But Krishna's come to show us what's actually significant. And therefore he performs these pastimes. He shows us the love between him and Uddhava, the love between him and Bhishmadev. What to speak of the love between him and the Vrajvasis. He's performing all of these amazing pastimes, and they're beautiful. But why are they beautiful? One thing one reason they're beautiful is because Krishna himself is just beautiful. It's hard to, there's one devotee in San Diego where he dresses the deities like beautifully, like really nicely, And I remember I told him, he dressed for like a festival or something like that, and I told him, I said, Prabhu, the deities look really, really beautiful. And he says, yeah, it's hard to make them look bad. And it's true, actually. It is. It's very, like, the nature of Krishna is that he's very beautiful. He has rupa madhuryam. He has this beautiful form. So one reason, of course, is that just the nature of Krishna is that he's beautiful. So everything that he does is beautiful. But one reason that he especially makes his pastimes beautiful in the material world is because he wants to attract people. Vishnu Chitta Prabhu was talking yesterday about how everything in Krishna consciousness is meant to blow the jiva's mind, basically. Srila Prabhupada, he was talking about how Srila Prabhupada wanted to introduce deity worship, specifically to attract people, especially Westerners. So Krishna, everything he does is extremely beautiful, and not only is it beautiful, not only is it just attractive to look at, to see, but it's also meaningful. It's not just like, Krishna consciousness is not just something to, something nice for the eyes to see or nice for the ears to hear or whatever. But it's actually seriously meaningful in an actual real sense. It's really meaningful. As opposed to everything else, which is meaningless, which is useless. So it's very difficult to comprehend how the Supreme Lord, the creator of everything, every single universe, is like unlimited universes. We think this universe is big. There's unlimited universes, not only like this one, but larger, with more living entities. We think of all the living entities in this room right now, inside the walls, the different, find spiders and bugs and things like that. What to speak of the microbes, How many living entities just in this room? What to speak of in the entire universe? And there are universes with even more living entities. So here we are, specks of dust in some, Brahmanda floating around. But Krishna loves us. Krishna not just loves us like, like some famous music artist loves his fans, like, oh, thanks for being a supporter or something like that. But he really actually loves us. He really actually loves us, even though Krishna can see every single horrible, disgusting, sinful thought that we've ever had. Krishna not only has seen them, but he remembers them. He could give you a list of all the disgusting things we've ever thought, said, all the weird, gross things that have popped up into our mind, everything. Not only has he seen it, but he remembers it. He could give you a list. He could say, you've done this, 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 and this. But still, it's like, okay, fine, whatever. Just come back. Just give it up. Just come back. And therefore he comes to this world because he actually loves us. Not just in a superficial way, but like we hear with the cowherd boys. Krishna was taking lunch with the cowherd boys. Every single one of the cowherd boys was feeling like their relationship with Krishna was the most significant. That Krishna's here and he's personally reciprocating with me. All the gopis also in the rasa dance. Krishna expanded himself. All the gopis were thinking, Krishna's here just with me. So it's not just some kind of superficial love like, hey, brother, thanks for being a fan or something like that, It's real, serious love. And it's so real we don't even know. It's so real we can't even comprehend how real it is. Therefore, Krishna comes. And he comes and he's resting against this tree. And we think, okay, he's resting against a tree. It's very nice. But why is he resting against this tree? Ultimately to show us that this tree, which represents the material nature, is just, something insignificant. Krishna is in the foreground. Maya should be in the background. Krishna is in the foreground. That's what's really significant. So, anyway, those are some thoughts on this verse. It's 8:37. If there's any comments or questions or anything like that. Grantharaja Shri... Mataji, anything? No? Okay. Grantharaja Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.
Who can